Lauri Markkanen has been cursed. No, wait, he's just tired of playing basketball. Remember when Lauri Markkanen used to actually be good at basketball? Yeah, it feels like so long ago that we don't even remember those good old days. But before we jump into the video, make sure to subscribe and like the video down below. If you do so, we're told Lauri Markkanen basketball powers will come back once again. So who wouldn't want that? This year, Lauri Markkanen has only averaged 15.2 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 42% shooting from the field, and 34% from 3, as well as 83% from the free throw line. His numbers aren't the worst, but for a player that looked like he was about to become an all-star, that's pretty disappointing, right? What changed from this up-and-coming player to fall apart? The 21-year-old Lauri Markkanen joined the season late this year due to injury, so that could be one of the reasons for a slower start. He only managed to play 10 games so far, averaging 15.2 points and 6 rebounds while shooting only 34% from the three-point line. There have been several games this year where Markkanen just looks lost on the court, sometimes forgetting which team he's playing for, with the amount of turnovers he's getting per game. Or he actually thinks he's Steph Curry with these crazy shots he's throwing up. His performance comes down to whether or not he plays with Zach LaVine, which is another problem. With Zach in the game, the Bulls are a winning team, but a losing team when he's not on the court. The time Markkanen is playing without Zach, well, his performance is just atrocious. What's wrong with him? Did one of those Space Jam monsters take away his powers? It's starting to look that way. Now, to be fair, Markkanen hasn't fully been healthy yet, as his injury is causing some issues in his play. Based on the details of his injury, it seems that this has been something that has been bothering him for some time now and is causing major attention. If this is the case, I think we all agree that in Markkanen's best interests, he should take some time off and fully recover. We want the old Markkanen back. So, probably the main factor to blame for how bad Lauri Markkanen is really playing here is the coach, Jim Boylen. Markkanen has a very versatile offensive skill set. He has the three-point shot that all players need to play in today's league. He's a good handballer for a player his size, which means he's very capable of attacking and cutting towards the rim. He's a pretty decent scorer. He's no better than the league average, but we've seen Markkanen go off at times, proving that he has the ability to score in today's NBA. He also has a weird dragging move that he performs too often, which he doesn't have to do in a lot of scenarios. But what's worrying is that it happens too often right next to the basket, which reduces his shooting percentage. He's a good and explosive athlete. There are a lot of plays where Markkanen simply just runs full speed on the floor and the defender, who's supposed to be guarding him, gets lost, and Markkanen gets a free wide-open fast break dunk. He's a very valuable player when standing at the three-point line. Being a 7-footer with impressive ball handling skills, he can attack from the moment he catches the ball or simply pull up a shot over the defender using his height as an advantage. When looking at the Chicago Bulls on paper, they simply look like a team that can put up some big numbers offensively. Yet that isn't the case when Markkanen is playing poorly, and this then translates into the poor offensive edge of the Bulls when on the court. He has gone from averaging 18.7 points and 9 rebounds in 32.3 minutes of play per game to no more than 14.7 points and 6.3 rebounds in 29.8 minutes per game. Next season will be his last with a rookie contract, so he could be re-signed by the Bulls this summer. He's going to have to improve his shooting percentage overall and prove to the Bulls that he's worth the money. Logically, with how poor Markkanen has been playing this season, it's no surprise that his shooting percentage would drop, 42.5% from the field and 34.4% from 3, both career lows and the worst numbers by far in his NBA career. This is definitely something that Markkanen is going to have to work on if he indeed wants to make an impact on the court. He really needs to stop playing like Curry and focus on his strengths. I've had 80 touches per game in the last 2 seasons. This season, the touches dropped to 40. Don't get me wrong, I had some plays in mind, but it's different. When I talked to Jim Boylen, we talked about how I should focus on getting rebounds and then leading the counterattacks. But it's a little tricky when you have 40 defensive rebounds, Lauri said. Despite the drop in confidence in him, the player is clear that his future remains in Chicago and hopes to renew his contract as soon as possible. I want to stay in Chicago and sign an extension with the Bulls. There's no doubt about it. I love this city. I mean, who wouldn't want to continue playing with the Bulls? Michael Jordan led them to 6 rings and is arguably one of the best players to play the game. So putting on that red and white jersey each and every night is simply an honor. Injury problems have been an issue for the Bulls for as long as we can remember. Derrick Rose, who looked like he was going to destroy the league for years to come, suffered multiple, almost career-ending injuries while playing for the Bulls. It's like they've actually been cursed? Maybe we were right at the beginning of the video. Markkanen, who made a name for himself as a fragile player during his first 2 seasons, he didn't play 44 games, has not missed a single game so far in 2019 to 2020. But Wendell Carter, the other starter, is currently out with a sprained right ankle, and Otto Porter Jr. has not played since November due to a left foot injury. I think we can all agree that the Bulls really needed the NBA to be canceled for those few months. That way half their roster can fully recover from injuries and get back to playing at 100%. Anyway, Coach Jim Boylen is used to dealing with this. Since the Illinois franchise took on Porter Jr. in February 2019, he has only been able to enjoy his top 4 players, Zach LaVine, Otto Porter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter Jr. in 9 games out of a possible 74, a fact that is even more remarkable when you think that we're talking about players who are no older than 26. So another problem beyond his injuries is that he's being used incorrectly, obviously. His aggressiveness has always been a factor, but even if he hadn't been aggressive, he was still a good scorer. Lauri is a big man, which means that, at least to some extent, he needs the attack to be built around his game. Not as a first choice, because Markkanen shouldn't be the first choice. You don't want your 7-foot big man running around the court trying to get open. He needs the attack to be built around him in pick-and-roll situations that lead to easy baskets under the rim. Even great ones like Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid need a system that serves them because they are not guards. If you're not a shot maker, you need the attack to be ready for you. You need other players to free you up in order to knock down the right shot or finish strong at the basket. And Lauri isn't someone who's looking for his chance. He's had the same problem as Nikola Jokic in the past, but even with his aggression problem, he can be a 22-year-old guy with a deadly shot. And he proved that in February last year, when he shot 50, 40, 90 and averaged 26 points per game that whole month. Markkanen is more than capable of being a dominant scorer in the NBA, but he's a long way from being a top shooter in the league. Markkanen's main selling point was that he was going to be a lethal 3-point shooter in the league with amazing ball handling for a 7-foot player. Averaging 6 threes per game and shooting 36% from 3 is an amazing stat to have. This makes guarding Markkanen that much harder, as he can either pull up a shot or drive hard toward the basket. But even if that was the case, he could be above average in other aspects of the game. His potential as a star has not been lost, but almost ruined by Jim Boylen. Boylen needs to run his offense through Zach LaVine, but around Markkanen, and make sure he's getting the passes he needs in order to be successful on the court. Part of that is Markkanen's fault for his lack of aggression when on the court. He's only averaging 8 shot attempts per game. He needs to drastically increase those numbers in order to make a real impact on the court. Is Lauri a good shooter? Well, it's hard to tell if he's only attempting 8 shots per game. We do have our doubts, but we also see potential in him. Maybe the Bulls need to fire Boylen as his system isn't working, and hire a competent NBA coach who could have Lauri averaging more than 20 per game. But since the Bulls continue to go with Jim Boylen as the head coach, we'll simply have to wait and see what happens in the future. Let's hope this surgery helps him recover and at least make him an average shooter, which is what he's supposed to be, and that Boylen learns to bring out the best in his players, which is what he's supposed to do as a coach. We hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe down below. Check out some of these videos on the screen.